All right, so it's the middle of the day. Actually, no, it's after 2. And today's Tuesday. Finished most of what I needed to do today, which is great. Um, but that just means that I have a bunch of meetings next week, probably, right? It's typically how it works. But anyhow, yeah, good there. Make sure you join the Discord, which is going to be down in the description box below. I actually spent some of the morning buying cryptocurrency. I had been talked about this for so long, and I'm like, you know what, I'm going to buy cryptocurrency. It never happened. And finally today, I was just like, I just felt like it. And I ended up buying some cryptocurrency. I bought Bitcoin. And then I thought, well, why stop there? So I bought some Ethereum as well. I got I think 6 or 7 different Bitcoins, or not Bitcoins, cryptocurrency. And so the folks on Discord, there's a few. What's his name? Crypto Overlord, I believe. He basically can write an encyclopedia on cryptocurrency. Yeah, he knows stuff. He knows. But and there's others. But yeah, anytime I have questions, I go right to him. He's able to, take something that is kind of complicated and simplify it enough to where I can then explain it to Noelle, because Noelle is very, very smart, but there's certain things, it's just like, if it doesn't really make sense, as soon, excuse me, as soon as she hears it, it's hard to break that down. She builds like a little instant wall. So you have to, otherwise she's like, I don't know. But I even got Noelle in on it. So she got some Bitcoin. She didn't want to do too much. But she got Bitcoin. So we have invested quite a bit into cryptocurrency, which we'll see what happens, right? Time to buy is now because it's low. I always tell people buy low and sell high. It's just what you do. My stock portfolio is kind of not so hot. Oh, somebody's calling. Studio. I have literally, how many jobs? 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 jobs. I don't even remember. Sometimes I get behind and I'm like, oh crap, I forgot to do something. I have to do it. The kids are always upset with us because we are having family time, and Noelle and I are talking business. There's like a bunch of stuff we have to do now because we're expanding the studio. We're having a production side, but there's something else coming up too, which is going to make me even more busier. And it's a potential investment opportunity. So I'm going to, again, I go in very delicately before I go all in, and we'll see what happens. But it seems pretty promising. It's here in Tacoma. It's going to be pretty cool. Pretty cool. A lot of ideas what I want to do with it. But anyhow, that's not what this video is about. This video is actually, someone said, hey, Hersh, what is your thoughts about the current issue going around with Kwame Brown? He's calling out a lot of people from Charlemagne the God on the Breakfast Club and people on the Breakfast Club, as well as people that he played ball with. What are your thoughts about him and his recent speaking out? Here's my take on it. And there's quite a few people who are making videos about Kwame Brown, and they're even taking, not even just like giving their opinion, they're taking whole pieces of his videos and they're actually posting them on YouTube as if it's their own stuff. Like, to me, that's not cool. You should be able to come up with your own content. Coming up with your own content is very, very hard. And that is why you don't have a lot of people. If you look at a lot of YouTube, some of it is just people who just regurgitate uh, someone else's work completely. And so it just, or they do a reaction video where something's happened and they just sit there and laugh and watch what happens. You see what I'm saying? Like it's not as easy as you think. There are some channels and people talk about it. Like my channel's teeny tiny. And it's gonna always be teeny tiny. That's totally cool. But I don't use profanity, and I will go to that in terms of Kwame Brown, but I don't use profanity on here really. It's nothing that's controversial. I don't put people down. I don't talk negative about things and people. We don't talk about politics. So when you don't have something that's controversial or hot button topics, of course you're not going to get a lot of people that will watch you. In fact, I know of someone who is a YouTuber who uses extreme harsh language in every single video that they do, just because they know that if they were to get the extra amount of people that they normally would not have gotten. But when you talk to that person, they don't talk anyway at all like that. But on their YouTube, it's a completely different thing where they're cussing every 3 seconds and have an attitude, like, yeah. I know a guy that does that. And he has a pretty big following. And the reason why is because people want to see that. Right? But getting to Kwame Brown. First off, I heard of Kwame Brown a long time ago. I remember someone talking about, man, there's this kid that didn't even go to college. He's straight out of high school and he's ended up going into the NBA. This giant kid, blah, blah, blah. I remember people talking about that. And I thought, man, that's when you sit back and look at college sports and how basically they rip off players, in my opinion, because the players don't get paid, but yet coaches get fat and the university gets fat. And all of that, I kind of felt like, yeah, that's good. At least he, went directly into the NBA and he can actually get paid for his talent. The other part of it was that's bad because I always feel you need something to fall back on because nothing's guaranteed. Even in the NBA, which is extreme, or any professional sport, it's extremely hard to get in. It's even harder for you to be one of those top tier type folk. Not everybody is Kobe Bryant and, Magic Johnson and Larry Bird and all that. Not everybody, or Jordan, not everybody's going to be at that level. Shaq, most of them are going to be mid-level or below. Very few are the top bangers. And that goes for NFL and all of them. I mean, all sports are like that. So even if you get in there, you may not be making you can be making a whole lot more than I do, but you're not going to be making a whole big bunch to where, you could just sit back and chill. Same thing with boxing. Not everybody is Bunny Mayweather. You see what I'm saying? And even if you do get that type of money, if you are dumb with it, you can end up being broke. So one of the things that they don't do is teach people about finance, money management, stuff like that. They just don't. And when you have someone who is fresh out of high school and you're giving them a big old fat check and you're getting recognized by someone by the likes of Jordan, I mean, yeah, that does something to you. First off, in terms of just, Stephen A. Smith, which you can have your views about him, I personally feel like a lot of times, I feel like a lot of times there are people who are personalities that feed into the stereotype. Or they make money off of a stereotype. And this is where I agree with Kwame Brown and a lot of other people who, because, there's the whole topic about, like the media and society and how society views Black people and Black men specifically. And that's a whole different can of worms. But the first part of that is what other Black people do to other Black people. And this is why there are some people who do not care for people like Oprah Winfrey too much, Gayle King too much, in the sports world, you know, Stephen A. Smith. There are a lot of people who just don't really care for folks because either A, they have made their money dogging people in their own community, or they feed into a stereotype of being as loud and as obnoxious as possible. You see what I'm saying? And so that to me is a problem. I enjoy watching someone like Shaq and some of the others. You know, I enjoy watching them talk about sports because Shaq is just funny. You see what I'm saying? He doesn't have to put on some sort of persona. I mean, he's just himself, and you can tell it's very authentic. And, you know, whatever you think about Charles Barkley, I mean, you're getting what he's always consistently has been, and it is what it is. But there are others who just tear people down, and there's no reason to do that. And so I get why Kwame Brown's upset, because you spent all this money or all this time making all this money dogging not only him, but other people. And I get it, when you're in the sports world and you're a sportscaster or whatever you want to call them, that you talk about athletes' performances and trades and different things like that. But to go on there day in and day out and just constantly talking trash about people, eventually someone's going to get tired of that. If you watch like overseas channels, and you watch how they talk about their athletes, it's a completely different thing than over here. Over here, it's a lot of trash talk. And people will say, well, that's kind of the way it is. But that doesn't mean that it's right. And another thing in terms of Kwame Brown, there's a big difference playing in high school basketball and being at the top tier of things versus playing in college, being at the top tier of things versus playing professionally. They're all three different worlds. And you may be excellent at one, but the others you may not be that great at. And unfortunately, had he been able to go into college and actually play, there would have been a better gauge as to, dang, there's a whole lot of messages Noelle sending me. Anyway, had he been able to go into college and actually play, then maybe he could have been, they could have found out, like, maybe he is not as great as what we thought, right? But he still is. I mean, for him to be in the NBA, to make it in the NBA to begin with, is exceptional. And for him to be able to be in the NBA as long as he has been is exceptional. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to tear him down because he's not at the same level as some of these other people. You see what I'm saying? Like that. To me, it's like you have to understand why Jordan may have chose him as a first. And people are saying, well, he was a first round draft pick or whatever. And, it'd be different if he was like 40th. But he's first round, so but maybe Jordan was looking at it from the standpoint he needs someone who is a phenomenal blocker, which Kwame Brown was. These are facts. So, you know what I mean? So maybe that's what it was. And so the whole persona of, well, he didn't shoot very good. Maybe Jordan was looking at it as maybe I have what I need there. I need someone that's great with blocking. Someone who I know is going to be able to dunk without thinking about it. We don't know. And it doesn't really matter at this point. You know what I'm saying? Like, these are all retired dudes. But to me, I understand why Kwame Brown would be pissed, because it's like you've spent all these years dogging someone, especially someone who's really young. At the time, he was really young. Now he's about my age. Who is really young and very inexperienced, still growing to be a man. And you're talking like harsh. And now Kwame Brown doesn't have any sort of contracts to get in the way. It's kind of like with myself. When you don't have to work for someone, you can literally be pretty free in what you say. But when you're working for someone, you have to be very careful because at any point in time, they can just boot you out the door. And so now he doesn't have any of that to worry about. So he can just sit there and say what he needs to say and get it off his chest. Whereas back in the day, he couldn't. He was already probably concerned with the fact that, hey, he's not playing what as well as people thought. People are talking trash about him. If he responds, it's going to look even worse. There's a good chance that he's not going to be able to be re-signed again or whatever the case may be. And he's looking at it from the standpoint of, I'm a poor kid. I got these big contracts and I'm trying to take care of my family, mainly his mother. I get that, right? I grew up in the South too. Single parent home as well. And I don't blame him. If I had to eat sand every day in order to help my mama out and put her in a better situation, I'd do it. So I get why he did what he did and why he's doing it now. Some people may not like the language coming out, but at the same point, if you think of all the years of being trashed and talked about, not only by sports analysts, but also by other people within the NBA, forget the fact that people just common average everyday people sit and dog you or make YouTube videos about you. But you have other players who talk trash about you. It feels like you don't have a friend in the world. So I get it. I don't blame him. I don't blame him. I also think too that there's a turning point where you now have more black men who are getting onto YouTube or at least expressing themselves more on YouTube, because we've been taking a lot of crap from a lot of people for a lot of years and we've never really bucked the trend. You had, and I'd said this before, you have some black women trashing black men every single day on YouTube. Not based on the experiences of every black man that they've ever been with, because they don't know all black men, but they're talking about the select few that they've come in contact with who may be trash. But they want to paint all black men that way. And they've made their money off of YouTube, off of doing that. Same with Oprah, Gail, Sally Jesse Raphael, Jerry Springer, all of them, Maury Povich, they made tons of money about who's the baby daddy, who isn't, and just, ghetto games, basically. Putting that on TV, and people are doing this for a paycheck. I assume they got paid. I don't know. I don't know about that. But people were doing it for whatever their reasons were. And these companies, these talk show hosts made tons of money. And meanwhile, painted black men with stereotypes that still linger to this day. And to be honest with you, Mr. Kevin Samuels put on a video last night talking about how one person basically resurrected the Klan. He was talking about, Birth of a Nation and what that did. Klan was not even thought about. That brought all that back. And it also brought up all these stereotypes about black men, some of which is regurgitated by some black women on YouTube every single day. So you have more black men saying, I'm tired of basically being put into this box that doesn't fit. There are also black men who are at fault too, who cater to that nonsense. And this is where Mr. Brown, Kwame Brown, is talking about. You cater to this. You can easily talk about stats and figures and facts, and you can do so in a way that's not disrespectful. When you disrespect a man, that person loses all respect for you. And that's what you're seeing now, right? You're seeing that now. And I can't say I don't blame him. But you're seeing a turning point where you have some black dudes that are checking some of the black women who talk all this nasty trash about us when they're choosing the wrong people to be around. That's their fault. You're always going to have good and evil in the world. It started out that way, it's going to end that way. And if you end up choosing the wrong person because of whatever issues that you have, or because you're looking at fool's gold and you have someone that talks good nonsense and you're ignoring the person that's not sitting there trying to check up on you all the time and using all these sly lines and all this stuff, and he's not the most handsomest guy and he's not the most flashy dresser, you're ignoring that guy, but you're going for the guy with 1,000 tattoos on him, gold teeth everywhere. And then you want to sit and paint every guy as if they're the problem. Every black guy as if they're the problem. That's not the case. You ended up choosing a fool. Accept that responsibility. That's what Kevin Samuels talks about. Accept the responsibility. Accept what is wrong. It's not to say that you are a horrible person. It's to say accept what you're doing. Maybe not even thinking about it. You're choosing the wrong people. Don't paint all guys. Because I've said this before, men vote with their feet. If I'm not going to be accepted or liked or whatever, cool. Whether it's a job, whether it's a city that I, happen to live in, whatever, I will vote with my feet. I'll leave. And you have some people that are doing that. You have a lot of new dudes that are getting onto YouTube or becoming more prominent. They may have been on YouTube for a bit. Kwame Brown is on YouTube, which is good, but he's also trying to turn it towards something positive in the last couple of videos that I've seen. Basically trying to put more emphasis on, A, stop talking trash about black men, especially black men in sports, which is good because we don't have a lot of advocates to begin with. And for 2, he's also trying to get some of these athletes to put their money where their mouth is and really try to help. There are some people who have made a whole lot more money than Kwame Brown did and do very little to help the community. Or they will help a community that really and truly doesn't need all that much help. But as far as putting community centers, and some of these dudes that are in the NBA grew up extremely poor. And you would think they would try to help poor communities, and some absolutely don't. They don't. They can use their voice alone to really energize and make things happen. They just don't. So I get it, and I think it's important. I think having someone like Kevin Samuels on is great as well because he's changing the view that's out there. Because for a long time, and people even talk about Mad Bus Driver. I don't disagree with these individuals being online because there has been such a negative view painted on black men, even in the black community, from other black men and for some black women that have painted a very negative, toxic, stupid view. That's not true. And then when these guys end up going into other communities and people are having these suspicions because they hear all this negative crap, and then they realize, well, you're different. I've been told that many times. Oh, you're different. Are you black, really? I heard that a lot in school. Are you really black? No lie. Only because, and I even had that I had a coworker back in the day when I was like 20, 21. He would even say that. And while that is low-key bigoted, he was a guy that was pretty much kind of, I don't know, he was into, rap and hip hop and all that type of stuff. So I kind of saw him as saying like, you're not what I have always seen, how black dudes are portrayed and how they act. This was the height of Tupac and all that, Biggie. And to see someone who's well-dressed, who, is able to have a complete sentence and not use slang, people weren't used to that. And in fact, people talk about, the whole interracial dating thing. A lot of women, white, Asian, Hispanic, maybe had certain views about black dudes until they came across an individual and they're like, wow, this is a unicorn. Herschel's a unicorn. Mad Bus Driver's a unicorn. And in reality, we're not. That, or even Kevin Samuels, oh, that's a unicorn. It's not. It's not. The unicorns are the ruffians. They're a rare group of individuals that some didn't grow up that way, but they want to live up to a stereotype because it works. You may get a certain type of chick. And what some of these other individuals, and even Kwame Brown has said this, is that being a thug or trying to portray being one is a losing game. It just doesn't work. So I think that I listen to the message. Is it entertaining to listen to Kwame Brown and some of the stuff he's saying? Yes. But it's similar to music. Do you listen to all the words in that, or you just hum along because you like the beat? If you really listen to the message and think about the words, think about what they're trying to portray, it's a completely different thing. And for me, just listening to what he's saying, and you have people saying he's crazy. He's not. He's not. He's not. Maybe speaking in code quite a bit. But if you really sit and listen, he's really ringing a lot of bells, and he does it over and over again. And there are certain people who just can't get it. They don't get it. You see what I'm saying? In terms of even the Breakfast Club, you have individuals on there who try to talk all this stuff, but don't really help the Black community very much at all. And in fact, make the Black community look even worse. That's the thing. The people who are claiming to be so pro-Black do the worst damage to the Black community. Because A, a lot of them don't even end up buying from the Black community. B, they sit and perpetuate stereotypes. Look at how many times people have sit there and razzed and talked negative about Kevin Samuels, about the way he dresses, the way he talks. I agree that maybe the delivery is a little heavy. Don't get me wrong, but it's the message. If you really sit there and think about the message, it's funny that people can do that with some people. That can be super polarizing. They can sit there and say, but the message that they're trying to say, if you really think about it, they didn't mean it this way. But they can't do it when it comes from the lips of a Black man. There may be some people that don't like this video. That's cool. But I'm speaking facts. When it comes from somebody like Kevin Samuels, or when it comes from somebody like a Kwame Brown or whoever, and they're speaking true facts about how crappy people are towards Black men specifically, of course you're going to have people that don't like you. Of course you're going to have people who, try to fight at you because it makes money. The reason why you have some of these Black women on YouTube who sit and trash Black men, and you have some white dudes who do it too, because they're trying to cater to these Black women that do that, is because it makes money. It does. And if I'm a white dude who is doing that, and I may not even give a darn about Black women, but if I can sit and talk trash about Black dudes, I know I'm going to get a parade of people who will subscribe to me. And not only am I trying to feed into their insecurities, those particular individuals' insecurities, but I'm also pandering to bigots, and I'm able to get a steady supply of cash because at the end of the day, YouTube is cool with that too. These are facts. And so you have other guys that are saying, I see what you're doing. That's why when you look at people like Mad Bus Driver, they're mad at him because he's basically saying you have other options. You may disagree with the message, may disagree with what he's saying, but on the same token, he sits there and puts images of Black dudes in a better light, a positive light, than just being a thug, someone that's got 15 kids, someone that's in and out of jail, someone that, is taking their gold chains and lifting them up and all this. He doesn't do that. And people don't like that. And the fact that you're showing white chicks and Asian chicks and Hispanic chicks with Black dudes, Of course, you're going to have a lot of people that hate that. But he's not basically painting black men in a very negative light at all. It's the direct opposite. And so for me, anytime I see any group that speaks positive about black men, of course I'm going to sit there and say that's good. Because there has always been this preoccupation with us from everybody. And it hasn't been in the most positive light. And so, in terms of, Steven Jackson was a phenomenal basketball player. He was great. You understand? Great. But I think also in terms of the way that he has responded, and I agree with, Kwame Brown too, I wish they could respond a lot better and a lot more civil to each other and have their disagreements versus being all brolic about it. I do wish that would be the case. But you got egos. You got grown men that's got egos. I get it. But I wish that the way that they went back and forth with each other was a little bit more tamer in terms of tone than what it is. But anyhow, I think that what he's doing is needed. He kept his mouth quiet. He's probably one of those shyer type of dudes. And with us shy dudes, we cool, but we can unload on you when we need to. And that's what you're saying. But anyhow, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you join the Discord down in the description box below. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, I will see you. Take care.